Tonight, I will tell you a quiet story about a girl who had a library in her mind, but a lock on her lips. In the village of Echoes, every morning was the same, until one choice changed everything. This story happens in a place where words were more valuable than gold. In the village of Echoes, the people did not judge you by your clothes or your house. They judged you by how you spoke. To speak with a clear, strong voice was the greatest honor. To speak with rhythm and flow was a sign of a master. But Ilara was the poorest girl in the village. Ilara lived in a small, stone house at the edge of the town. Her room was filled with tall stacks of books. They covered the floor. They touched the ceiling. Ilara was not stupid. In fact, she was the smartest student in the valley. She knew the grammar rules of the ancient languages perfectly. She knew 10,000 difficult words. She could write sentences that were complex and beautiful. But the villagers had a name for her, the silent scholar, because when Ilara closed her books and walked outside, her power disappeared. When she tried to say, "Good morning" to the baker, her heart beat fast. When she tried to ask for help, her lips felt stiff and heavy, like they were made of wood. Her tongue felt thick and clumsy in her mouth. She wanted to sing the words, but she could only make broken sounds. Ilara thought she was just shy. She thought, "I need to study more. If I learn 100 new words today, then I will be able to speak tomorrow." So she studied more. She read until her eyes hurt. She memorized lists of verbs until she fell asleep at her desk. She thought the problem was in her mind. She was wrong. On this particular evening, the wind was blowing hard against her window. The sun was setting, turning the sky a deep purple. Ilara sat looking at a page in her book, but she felt a strange sadness in her throat. She did not know that her books were actually the wall blocking her path. She did not know that this evening would force her to leave her safe room and face the one thing she feared most, the sound of her own voice. The next morning, Ilara woke up with a plan. Today, she would be different. Today, she would speak. She practiced in front of her mirror while she brushed her hair. "I would like 2 loaves of brown bread, please," she whispered. The sentence was perfect. The grammar was correct. The vocabulary was precise. In her mind, her voice sounded like a silver bell, clear and confident. She repeated it 10 times in her head until she felt ready. But real life is not a rehearsal in a quiet room. Ilara walked to the village market. It was loud and busy. People were shouting prices. Carts were rolling over the stones, and chickens were clucking in cages. The noise hit Ilara like a physical wave. She held her basket tight against her chest. She stood in the line for the bakery. Her heart began to beat a little faster. Thump, 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 thump. "Next!" the baker shouted. He was a large man with flour on his apron and very little patience. Ilara stepped forward. This was the moment. She opened her mouth to release the perfect sentence she had practiced, but her lips felt dry and stuck together. Her tongue felt too big for her mouth. I want," she stuttered. The baker frowned. "Speak up, girl. I have a long line." Panic seized her throat. The perfect grammar in her head dissolved into fog. She could not find the rhythm. She could not connect the sounds. In the end, she did not speak. She simply pointed a shaking finger at the brown bread. The baker sighed loudly, grabbed the loaves, and threw them into her basket. "Silent as always," he grumbled. Ilara walked away, her face burning with heat. She felt small. She felt broken. But this quiet discomfort was about to become something much heavier. As she walked home, She saw a notice nailed to the town square post. It was a message from the Great Council. In 1 month, the council would decide which old buildings to tear down. The old library is on the list. Ilara stopped breathing. The library was her home. It was her sanctuary. To save it, someone had to stand in front of council and argue for its value. Someone had to speak with passion, clarity, and power. Ilara looked at her hands. She could not even buy bread without shaking. How could she save her home? She ran back to her room and did the only thing she knew how to do. She took out her money and ordered 3 more books on advanced grammar. She thought that if she just studied harder, the words would come. She did not know that she was trying to fix a broken instrument with a paper manual. She tried to build a tower of words to climb over her fear, but she did not know that the foundation was weak. For the next 3 days and 3 nights, Ilara did not leave her room. She treated the speech to the council like a written exam. She wrote down every single word she wanted to say. She chose big, impressive words like indispensable, preservation, and architectural heritage. She told herself, if I use difficult words, they will respect me. She sat at her desk and read the speech over and over again, but she did it silently. In her mind, her voice was booming like thunder. In her mind, she paused at the perfect moments. In her mind, she was a leader. This was her biggest mistake. She was training her memory, but she was ignoring her muscles. On the 4th night, the candle on her desk was burning low. Ilara stood up. I am ready, she whispered. I know the text by heart. She stood in front of her mirror to practice out loud for the first time. She took a deep breath and opened her mouth. The library is the corner stone of our culture. The sound that came out was not thunder. It was thin, flat, and robotic. She sounded like a machine reading a list of ingredients. There was no rhythm. There was no emotion. She stopped between every word because her mouth was not used to moving that fast. The library is the... It sounded terrible. Ilara tried to go faster, but her tongue tripped over the sounds. She tried to say architectural, but her lips got tangled, and she only made a strange clicking noise. She stopped. The room was silent, but her mind was screaming. Why? She thought, staring at her tired reflection. Why is my brain so fast, but my mouth so slow? I know these words. I own these words. Why do they die when they reach my lips? She felt a cold wave of panic. The council meeting was getting closer. She had the perfect script, but she did not have the voice to deliver it. She realized she was preparing for a race, but she had never learned how to run. She thought she still had time to fix things by studying more. She was wrong. The old man by the river did not read books. He made strange noises at the water. Ilara ran out of her house. She could not bear to look at the silent books or the mocking mirror anymore. She ran until she reached the riverbank at the edge of the village. The sun was going down, painting the water in dark shades of blue and gray. She sat on a rock, buried her face in her hands, and let the tears come. She cried because she felt trapped inside her own body, a prison made of silence. Suddenly, she heard a sound. It was not a bird, and it was not a word. It was a loud, vibrating buzz. Brrr, brrr. Ilara lifted her head. Standing a few meters away was an old man. It was Silas, the forgotten storyteller. People said that in his youth, his voice could calm angry wolves and make stone statues cry. Now he lived alone. Silas was not looking at her. He was looking at the river. He took a deep breath and made the sound again, letting his lips vibrate loosely like a child making a motorboat noise. Then he stuck his tongue out as far as it could go and stretched his jaw wide open. Ilera wiped her eyes. Was he crazy? Was he casting a spell? "Excuse me," she whispered. Silas stopped. He turned to look at her. His eyes were sharp and bright. "You are the girl with the library," he said. His voice was deep and resonated in the air like a drum. "Why are you crying?" "I have to speak to the council," Ilera said, her voice trembling. "But I can't. I know all the words, but they get stuck." "Do you? Do you have a book that can help me? A book of speeches?" Silas laughed. It was a loud, booming laugh that startled the birds. "A book? You want another heavy weight to carry." He walked closer to her. He pointed a rough finger at her throat. "Your problem is not in your head, girl. Your problem is here." He tapped her jaw. "And here." He tapped her lips. "And here." He tapped her tongue. "I don't understand," Ilera said. "You treat your mouth like a storage room for words," Silas said sternly. "But your mouth is a muscle. It is an instrument. If you want to run a marathon, do you read a book about running? No. You train your legs. If you want to speak, you must train your mouth." He looked at the heavy book Ilera was holding in her hands, a dictionary she had brought with her. "I can teach you," Silas said. "I can teach you to unlock the door. But you have to stop studying and start moving. You have to be willing to look foolish to become strong." He pointed to the dictionary. "Leave it here. If you bring that book, I will not teach you." Ilera looked at the book. It was her safety. It was her comfort. But it had not saved her. She looked at Silas, who stood tall and breathed with ease. She felt a moment of pure terror. To let go of her knowledge felt like jumping off a cliff. But she knew she could not go back to the robotic silence of her room. By the time the sun went down, nothing in her life would be the same. The training was not for her mind. It was for the muscles she never knew she had. Ilera left her book in the grass. She stood before Silas, feeling light and terrified at the same time. The old man did not ask her to recite a poem. He did not ask her to spell a difficult word. "First," Silas said, "we wake up the machine." He took a deep breath and made his lips vibrate again. "Brrrr." "Do it," he commanded. "Buzz like a bee until your nose itches." Ilera looked around to see if anyone was watching. She felt foolish. She was a scholar, not an insect. But Silas waited. She took a breath and tried. Puff! It was a weak sound. "Louder!" Silas shouted. "Your lips are sleeping. Wake them up." Ilera tried again. Brrrr. She did it for 10 seconds, then 20. Her lips started to tingle. Then Silas made her stretch her mouth wide, like a silent scream, and then squeeze it small like a lemon. "Open. Close. Open. Close." "My face hurts," Ilera complained after a few minutes. "Good," Silas smiled. "That means the muscles are growing. You're not studying English now. Ilera, you are building it." Next, Silas pointed to the river. The water was calm and acted like a mirror. "Look at yourself," he said. "Look into your own eyes in the water." Ilera looked down. She saw her tired face. "Say this," Silas ordered. "I am here to speak." "I am here to speak," Ilera whispered. "No." Silas clapped his hands loudly. "Don't whisper. Own the sound. Say it 5 times. Each time make it faster. Each time, make it stronger. Elara stared at the water. I am here to speak. I am here to speak. I am here to speak. By the fifth time, her voice rang out across the water. She saw her own eyes in the reflection, and for the first time, she did not look away. She felt a strange heat in her chest. It was confidence. Finally, Silas said, we learned the music. He did not speak words. He started to clap a rhythm with his hands. Clap, 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 clap. Don't tell me the words, Silas said. Just copy the sound. Dida. Elara closed her eyes. She stopped thinking about spelling. She listened to the melody of his voice. She began to hum along, then speak along. She wasn't thinking about grammar rules. She was riding the wave of the sound. For hours, they practiced by the river. The sun moved across the sky. Elara's jaw ached. Her throat was dry. Her body was tired, but her mouth felt strange. It felt alive. It felt loose and ready, like a runner warming up at the starting line. But as the sun began to set, Silas stopped clapping. He looked at the darkening sky with a serious face. Your mouth is waking up, he said quietly. But the great council arrives tomorrow morning, and the hardest part of your journey is still waiting for you. To speak to the council, she could not use single words. She had to weave them together. It was midnight. The moon was high above the river, casting a silver light on the water. Elara was exhausted. Her voice was scratchy, and her legs were shaking. But Silas would not let her rest. You have woken up the muscles, Silas said, his voice serious in the dark air. But you are still making one big mistake. You are speaking like a builder laying bricks, one by one. I want to save the library. He shook his head violently. No, that is too slow. That is too heavy. If you speak like that tomorrow, the council will stop listening before you finish your first sentence. But I want to be clear, Elara argued. I want to be perfect. Perfection is the enemy of connection, Silas growled. You need the final secret. You need the golden chain. He explained that fluent English is not a pile of separate stones. It is a river. The end of one word must flow into the beginning of the next. There must be no gaps. There must be no silence. Listen, Silas said. Don't say, what are you doing? Say, what you're doing? Don't say, I am going to go. Say, I'm going to go. Elara frowned. But that is not how it is written in the books. Books are for the eyes, Silas snapped. The golden chain is for the ears. Link the sounds. Make them hold hands. He gave her the opening line of her speech for the council. The library is the heart of our village. Try, Silas commanded. Elara took a deep breath. She tried to be perfect. The library is the heart. Stop, Silas shouted. Link it. The library is the heart. One breath, one sound, one chain. Elara tried again. Her brain was fighting her. Her brain wanted to stop and check every word, but Silas forced her to go faster. She stumbled. She stuttered. She felt tears of frustration burning her eyes. It felt messy. It felt wrong. It felt like she was losing control. Do not think, Silas whispered, leaning close to her. Trust the muscle. Let your mouth lead. Elara closed her eyes. She imagined the river. She imagined the water flowing over the rocks, never stopping, never breaking. She stopped looking for the words in her mind and started feeling the rhythm in her jaw. She took a breath. The library is the heart of our village. It came out fast. It came out smooth. It didn't sound like a robot. It sounded like music. Silas smiled in the darkness. Again. The library is the heart of our village. Again. Louder. For the next hour, Elara forged a chain. She linked every sentence of her speech. She turned the separate, heavy bricks into a flowing stream of sound. She felt a strange sensation. She wasn't translating anymore. She wasn't thinking about grammar rules. She was just speaking. I can do this, she thought, her heart pounding with a new kind of adrenaline. I don't need to see the words to say them. When Silas finally told her to stop, the sky was beginning to turn gray with the morning light. The birds were starting to sing. The great council was waking up. Elara was tired, but she felt a vibration in her chest that she had never felt before. She was ready, or so she thought. The doors of the town hall opened, and the silence inside the room was heavy enough to crush a bone. The great council sat at a long wooden table. They were old, serious, and impatient. Behind them, the villagers stood quietly waiting. Elara walked to the center of the room. Her legs felt weak. She looked at the faces of the council members, and suddenly the old panic returned. Her mind went blank. The beautiful speech she had practiced by the river disappeared. The perfect grammar rules vanished. The fear whispered to her, "You are the silent scholar. You cannot do this." She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. The room was suffocating. The head of the council leaned forward. "Well, we are waiting. Speak." Elara's hands began to shake. She looked toward the back of the room and saw Silas. He did not wave. He did not smile. He simply tapped his jaw with one finger. "Trust the muscle," he had said. "Do not think. Just move." Elara closed her eyes. She stopped searching for words in her brain. Instead, she focused on the feeling in her lips. She took a deep breath, buzzed her lips silently for a split second to wake them up, and then she let go. She didn't try to remember the text. She trusted the rhythm she had practiced all night. "The library is not just a building," she began. Her voice was not loud, but it was steady. And more importantly, it was connected. She did not stop after library. She did not pause after is. She linked the sounds together into a golden chain. It is the memory of our fathers and the promise to our children. The council members stopped looking at their papers. They looked at her. Elara felt a strange sensation. Her brain was empty, but her mouth knew exactly what to do. Her tongue moved fast, hitting the top of her mouth for the T sounds, rolling smoothly for the R sounds. She wasn't translating from a book anymore. She was playing music. "If we destroy it," she said, her voice rising with emotion, "we destroy ourselves." For 10 minutes, Elara spoke. She did not stutter once. She did not freeze. The words flowed out of her like water from a river. When she finished the final sentence, the room was silent again. But this time, it was not a heavy silence. It was a stunned silence. Then the head of the council smiled. "I have never heard the silent scholar speak with such life." The decision was made instantly. The library was saved. Elara walked out of the hall, her knees shaking, but her heart flying. She found Silas waiting by the old oak tree. She ran to him, breathless. "Silas, I did it." I remembered all the new words. Silas shook his head gently. "No, Elara, you didn't use any new words today. You use the same simple words you have known for years. He placed a hand on her shoulder. I did not teach you English, he said softly. I only taught your mouth how to carry it. You always had the song inside you. You just needed to tune the instrument. Ilara touched her throat. It didn't feel tight anymore. It felt open. She realized that for all these years, she had been a master builder with no tools. But now, she had the most powerful tool of all, a trained mouth. Let us look at Ilara's journey one more time. From the quiet beginning to the loud end, there was a young woman named Ilara who lived in a village of voices. She was very smart. She read many books. She knew thousands of difficult words. But she had a big problem. When she tried to speak, her mouth did not work. Her lips were stiff. Her tongue was heavy. She felt trapped inside her own silence. Ilara thought she needed to learn more words to fix this. She bought more books. She studied grammar rules late at night. She practiced silently in her head. But this only made the problem worse. When she stood in front of people, she sounded like a broken machine. She was afraid she would lose her home because she could not speak to the council. Then she met an old man named Silas by the river. Silas told her the truth. He said, "Your mind is strong, but your mouth is weak." He threw away her dictionary. He told her that speaking is not about studying. It is about moving. It is like a sport. You must train your muscles. So, Ilara began to train. She did not read. Instead, she woke up her lips by making buzzing sounds. She stretched her jaw. She looked in the mirror and spoke to her own eyes. She learned to copy the rhythm of the language, not just the spelling. She worked hard until her face was tired and her throat was dry. The most important lesson was the golden chain. Silas taught her that fluent English flows like a river. She learned to link her words together. She stopped saying, "What are you doing?" She learned to say, "Whatcha doing?" She stopped building walls with words and started building bridges with sound. Finally, the day of the big meeting arrived. Ilara stood in front of the powerful council. She was scared. Her brain wanted to freeze. But she trusted her training. She let her mouth move. She linked the sounds. She spoke clearly and smoothly. The council listened to her, and she saved the library. Ilara learned a simple secret that day. You cannot speak English only with your brain. You must speak it with your body. You must train your mouth, and then the words will be free. I have seen many students like her. They carry heavy books on their backs and heavy silences in their throats. My name is Silas, and for 50 years I have taught the people of this village how to speak. But I had never seen a student quite like Ilara. I used to watch her from my window. I saw her walking to the market with her head down. I saw her lips moving silently, practicing words she was too afraid to say out loud. I knew her secret. I knew that her brain was a palace, but her mouth was a prison. When she came to me by the river that evening, she looked broken. She asked me for a book. Poor girl. She thought another book would save her. I had to be hard on her. I had to throw her dictionary away. I knew she was terrified, but I also knew that comfort does not create change. I remember the first time I made her buzz her lips. She looked at me like I was crazy. She felt foolish, but I watched her face closely. I saw the blood coming back to her cheeks. I saw the stiffness leaving her jaw. I wasn't teaching her a language. I was waking up a machine that had been turned off for 20 years. The night before the council meeting was the hardest. I saw her trying to build the sentences brick by brick. She wanted to be perfect. I had to stop her. I told her to use the golden chain. I sat in the dark and listened to her voice change. It went from a choppy, broken sound to a smooth, flowing river. I closed my eyes and smiled. I knew then that she was ready. At the council meeting, I stood at the back of the room. When she walked in, I saw the fear in her eyes. I saw her look for the words in the air. I tapped my jaw to remind her, don't think, just move. And then she spoke. It was the most beautiful sound I have ever heard. It wasn't the sound of a scholar reading a text. It was the sound of a woman owning her voice. I did not give her that voice. She always had it. I just taught her how to open the door. And now, my friend, the story belongs to you. Just like Alara, you might have many books in your room. You might know all the grammar rules in the world. But if you feel fear when you open your mouth, remember the lesson of the silent scholar. Your mouth is an instrument, just like a violin or a drum. It does not matter how much music you have in your head if the instrument is stiff and cold. You cannot speak English only with your mind. You must speak it with your body. The mirror in your bathroom is your river. The people on the television are your Silas. Every time you buzz your lips, stretch your jaw, or link your words together in a chain, you are turning the key in the lock. You are opening the door. So, do not be afraid to look foolish in your room. Do not be afraid to make strange sounds. Do not be afraid to stumble. It is better to have a tired mouth than a silent one. Alara saved her library because she stopped studying and started moving. You can do the same. Here is a simple truth to carry with you. You cannot think your way to fluency. You must train your way there. If this story helped you understand your voice better, I invite you to join our community of brave speakers. You can click the like button to help this story travel to others who are still silent. And I have a question for you today. Are you ready to wake up your muscles? Write a comment below and say, I am training my mouth today. Listen to this story again. But next time, do not just listen with your ears. Shadow Alara's words. Buzz your lips with Silas. Let your mouth feel the rhythm. Thank you for listening. Keep training, keep moving, and I will see you in the next story.